Next, I'd like to ask Dana Eddy. Ready?
You have to excuse me, my mind and body disagreed over what I actually could do this weekend. Members of the board, you may recall, and Superintendent, you may recall, my name is Dana Eddy, and I represented Charlie Parker in his disciplinary proceedings before the board. I have asked to be placed on the agenda for July 21st to discuss some issues that have arisen out of the order that came from the board at the conclusion of that proceeding. Quickly, though, let me give you a little background. All matters that were public, so I don't believe that there's any personnel issues that are brought up. But the board had ordered a 30-day suspension commencing June 14th. The hearing was on June 29th. A subsequent letter came out which indicated that the period of suspension would be June 14th through, I believe, July 25th, using 30 working days instead of 30 calendar days. At that point, Mr. Parker and I discussed about it. We decided to accept the board's decision. We decided to accept that period of suspension and chose not to appeal to the Public Employees Grievance Board. A second letter came out 10 days later that I did not receive and only recently became aware of, in which the period of suspension was recalculated. And those are the issues that I will be raising on July 21st. The new calculation has something to do with the 230-day employment period as opposed to 200 days or whatever. The current directive from the superintendent is that Charlie report to work on August 10th at 2 o'clock. What I'm asking the board to consider is allowing him to actually come on August the 9th and attend the in-service training that's being provided for all service personnel. It would mean coming a day earlier than he was instructed to come. But again, this in-service personnel training is a requirement of the position he will hold throughout the forthcoming year. It's also on subjects that I would think you would want all service personnel to be instructed in, and I don't think that would be a major concession or a major, really debatable item, but to allow him to come on the 9th, attend the in-service training, and continue in the in-service training for the 10th. So if the board would see fit, or with the superintendent allowing to do so, I'd be most appreciative. Otherwise, we'll address the legal issues on July the 21st. Thank you. August 21st? What month are we in? Obviously, the mind is going. August 21st.
Ms. Lucas, I guess we understood the request there, at least at this time, that the way I'm understanding is that the suspension on that one day be extended. In other words, he would work on August 9th, and I'm assuming then he would take off the day after that, so the 30-day suspension would still be intact, but there would be like one day when he would work and then return for a day off. If I'm wrong, Mr. Eddy, please correct me.
Actually, I believe that there's also training provided on the 10th as well.
Okay.
So it would have to be a subsequent day.
Okay, so you're saying then that you would like for him to work for 2 days,
Right.
and then his suspension days would then occur after that, the 11th and 12th? Or whatever.
Correct.
I'm not sure what days of the week that are.
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Lucas, what's your recommendation to the board?
Well, we have alternative methods for the training to take place, because we have to keep in mind that we will be hiring other personnel, service personnel throughout the year, and we have to provide this training to them as well. So it isn't that Mr. Parker would not receive the training. We would be providing the training, just not on that particular day, because it is required, and we do provide that throughout the year.
But he can start the school year without this in-service training on the 9th.
Yes, there are, like I said, there are alternative methods that we would be able to provide.
10th, I believe. Is that when you return to August the 10th?
10th.
I think so. Ms. Tennant?
Yes, in addition, unfortunately, we didn't get word that counsel for Mr. Parker wanted this board to reconsider the disciplinary action until it was too late to amend the agenda. So the board is without authority at this time to take any action because there has not been the appropriate notice required of that as an agenda item. So it couldn't be taken up until your subsequent meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. Based on the seemingly advice of legal counsel, it appears that we will stick with the suspension and Mr. Parker return on August the 10th, unless some members have some objection to that. If not, Mr. Eddie, we'll see you on the 21st of August.
Of August.
And Charlie should report the work done on August the 10th. Thank you. Okay, moving right along here. Next, we have Wendy Beaver, JROTC. Get that out right.
Well, it's a lot to spit out, isn't it? I am a parent of the ROTC program. My son's been in it, this is his 4th year in it. He absolutely loves it. It's been very beneficial for him. And our concern is just because we've seen a lot in the paper back and forth with the contract. One minute, it was approved. We want to make sure that it was approved. We also wanted to ask if we could get that as an 11-month contract instead of the 10 months. The regular school contract for regular teachers is 10 months, 200 days. And if you average that out, that averages out right. If you figure 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, that'd be 200 days. So seems like that maybe it was just a misunderstanding. I don't know. But to me, it just seems like it needs to be an 11-month. If we did 11 months, 220 days, that would also allow that time for them to do the Camp Dawson and various activities, even during the summer that they do. The kids are very active, and we just want to make sure that the instructors are getting what they deserve when they're taking their time to do this, even during the summertime. I don't know where the contract stands right now. I mean, I think it was approved, I'm not 100% sure, but that was our concern, is we want to make sure that it is where it is, and that our instructors are receiving the minimum instructor pay that they are supposed to get. I know it's a little different with them because it goes with their rank and their time of service and all that. So we just want to make sure everything's legit. These kids are scared that they're going to lose their program. I mean, when they read it in the paper too, and they're not crazy. They're teenagers, they're young adults, and it means a lot to most of them. They're very respectable. These kids are depended on to do various things in the school, outside of the school. We're called on for various parades that they participate in, to do color guards, to work various functions. They're always busy. We've attended so many drill competitions and radar competitions, and they've always came back with many awards. So we just want to make sure that this program stays and that these kids are getting the contract and the teachers are approved. So that was our concern.
Well, we heartily agree with you that it's a worthwhile program. We too want it to continue and don't want to do anything to jeopardize that.
Yeah.
The board did approve a month or so ago a contract for this year for 220 days. And that's what's been approved. And that is the same number of days that were approved in the prior school year. So this contract we had this year is really the same. The number of days are the same as in 2011 and 12. Is scheduled for 2012-13.
See, and I was thinking in the minutes, I was reading some older minutes, and I don't remember the date, but I was believed that 1 year before, or 2 years, was 11 months. Was 11-month contract. And the thing with the 11 months is it's going to give them that extra time. They're not going to have to come back to you and say, hey, we need extra days for camp, or we need extra days for training. The 11 months to me, I don't know. It's just simple math is the way I'm thinking. 10 months, 220 days does not add up.
Let me just interject.
So that's confusing to me.
A typical school month for school employees is 20 days. And the majority of our teachers who don't have some extra assignments work 200 days.
Okay.
They work 10 months a year, 200 days. Now, with this program, it's a little bit different in the way it's computed. But there are those 20 days in addition. So some might get confused, and I can see where you can, because at times they confuse me with it, as to that would appear to be an 11-month contract. But the way the Army and it's calculated or determined for regular employees is a little bit different. But a regular employee who's going to work from August the 8th through June the 4th, that correct?
Yes.
They work, that's a 200-day contract. So for those persons that work beyond that, they have additional days beyond 200 days. So they're working 220 days, that's what their contract states. But the only reason I think that there's some dispute here is as to how the Army talks about months versus the way school law talks about months. Anything, Ms. Lucas, that you want to add to that? I sometimes confuse myself.
Just want to clarify that there has never been any indication from any of us at any time that the program was in jeopardy. That has never been discussed. Looking at a school calendar, the teachers come back on August the 8th. Their first month doesn't end until September the 4th or 2nd, I think. So you actually go through August and some days in September before you looked at 1 month.
Mhm.
Well, the Army only goes from, the calendar month, like August, that is 1 month to them. Well, and then as soon as you get into September, that's a second month to them.
Correct.
But it isn't for school personnel. August the 8th, I think, till September the 2nd makes 1 month for teachers. And it does get muddy. The water gets very muddy when you start looking at how they calculate 1 month versus a school system. And they, the instructors, the 2 instructors are school employees. And, they're no longer Army employees. So we're looking at school calendars versus an Army calendar. And it does get confusing. We have looked at that many times, and they have come and had many discussions with us. So we definitely are not looking at jeopardizing, and I don't want the students to think that the program is in jeopardy at all, nor the parents. That has never been discussed.
So has this been approved by the Army also? Because this has to, once it's approved by y'all, it has to go back to them, correct? And then they approve it and then it's sent back, correct? So they approved it and we're good to go?
We have spoken to a gentleman as recently as this morning,
Okay.
and things are fine.
Okay. All right, as long as you all say.
Well, once again, our goal is to make sure the program is operable. If we were to get some indication that there was a concern with the way we're implementing the program, then we would address that. Every member of the board sure feels that way. But as Ms. Lucas has said, we have never gotten any indication that it isn't, because as I said earlier, the number of days that they're scheduled to work this year are the very same number of days that they were scheduled to work last year.
So now the contract that I'm understanding, so they are employed as of the same day as the regular teachers. Or whatever it would be, August the 13th, whenever teachers came back, correct?
August the 8th.
So if you would look at their contract, which I didn't bring in, says September the 9th through June 30th. So legally, they don't have to work right now. That's public, we can get those, I got that from public site, so. But I know the contract said it was September.
Right.
So does that mean that they're not employed if their contract says September 9th?
There will be an amended contract.
Is that what happens? Okay, okay. I guess my concern is we just want to make sure that, with a 10-month contract, is that going to cover if they do any summer activities? Because, the parades and things like that, I don't want them to be out there and them hanging on a line if they go and do something with the kids. We didn't approve that month's contract, so you're not covered if something happens. I don't want them to be put on the line, and I don't want the kids to be put at risk. So I guess that was my other concern with an 11-month contract, or even a 12-month contract, is just because they do so many functions year-round. It's not just school year, for parades and things like that. That was my concern. I want to make sure everybody's covered.
And that's true of many of our teachers who do things without pay and work on weekends and all with various trips and whatever. They go to Kings Island, this, that, and the other. And same thing, if the board approves such things, then their liability is covered.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Wendy, I'd like to say something, and I want to confirm it
Yes,
with Birdie. We pay them 8 extra days, and they ask for 8
Yeah,
extra
actually,
days.
they're employed and paid for 220 days, and the school calendar is 200 days, like Ms. Trish Lucas explained, it starts in the middle of the month. And then what a lot of people don't understand, we're off a week for Thanksgiving, so that's not, not a full month, you're off a couple weeks of Christmas. And so we're all employed on days. I'm employed for days, Mr. Minkips days, Ms. Lucas days. We're employed for days. And they're employed for days because they are our employees. So they're employed for 220 days, which means they have 20 days outside the school calendar to do all their extra activities. So they can do extra activities in July, and they can do extra activities before our school starts in August, and they can do extra activities in June. And they have had a 220-day contract for probably 5 or 6 years. So nothing has changed.
And I think what Ms. Smith was alluding to is early June, I guess it was, the instructors came before the board and asked for 8 additional days, and those days were granted. There was some training that they needed to go to in the latter part of June, and they had already extended, their 220 days had been they'd already used those days, the days that were being paid for. So they came before the board and asked for 8 additional days, and the board granted those days to them. So last year, in essence, they worked 228 days, because our year goes from July the 1st to June the 30th. I can't say what will happen next June. They may come and ask the board again, and the board may grant that, or they may not. I mean, we're looking into the future. But that did occur last year, because we try to go and do what we think is necessary for the program to work. Okay. Next, along the same vein, I'll try to